What's going on, everybody? My name is Jacob Haros, and this is my Area C presentation. Area C was contemporary moral issues and the environment. So I decided to choose Peter Singer's All Animals Are Equal article to talk about. I started thinking about how humans and animals, how humans treat animals, and what equality, I guess, really means. But I kind of just thought equality, applied to humans. Obviously, not just equality, but in terms of definitions and um, you know, races, genders, and groups of people. But like, I guess Singer kind of challenges us to talk about um, how equality should also include animals, which also made me really rethink a lot of things. One of the things he also talks about is speciesism, which is basically when humans give more value to their own species over others, just basically like racism or sexism, but towards animals. At first I thought comparing animals to humans was kind of extreme, but the more I read, the more I kind of understood, I guess. He argues that just because something's a little different from us, it's like being smart or ability to reason or explain, it doesn't automatically really mean it deserves less moral consideration. um, the part that stood out to me the most was when Singer talked about suffering. He says that the most important thing morally is not being smart or language or being human. It's the ability to suffer. That kind of made me really think, because animals also can clearly feel pain, fear. They can be stressed just like us. So if suffering is really what matters the most, then the way we treat animals in like farming, you know food production, lab testing, it kind of just becomes like a moral issue at this point. But another thing I found pretty interesting was the idea of factory farming, and how animals are treated like products, instead of living beings, especially on factories, and not necessarily all farms, because I feel like some people treat their farm animals pretty well. But I never really, um, thought about, an ethical way before. I kind of already knew it existed, but this article made me like kind of realize that a lot of food systems we use are based on more convenience than taste, rather, necessarily. He Singer, like, he points out that humans don't really need to eat meat to survive, which made me question why it's so normalized that people eat meat damn near all the time. He also, brings up animal testing, and, he compares it to, humans in experiments, which kind of made me uncomfortable, but, made sense logically, I guess, because imagine if we were getting tested on, and what kind of world it'd be like if it was, the other way around. But he kind of says if we don't experiment on, if, like, we wouldn't experiment on human infants or someone with disability, then why should we question to think it's okay to do that to some animals? But that kind of forces you to think about the consistency and these moral decisions. At the same time, though, I do think it's pretty complicated issue that society is built around using animals for food, research, and other purposes. So even if the argument does make sense, changing it would be pretty difficult in life. But I think Singer's point isn't really necessarily that everyone has to change overnight. I would, you know, at least start questioning the system, um, and how we kind of justify it. But overall, I feel like this reading made me more aware of my actions. They kind of connect to bigger more ethical issues in the environment and society, and it kind of made me realize that morality isn't really just about how humans treat other humans, but it's also about how we treat other living beings and the experience that we could experience suffering. Um, but even though people might disagree with him, I think his argument is still pretty important because it forces us to think more deeply, not about ourselves, but what equality means and about other people and things.